Chapter 405. July 9th, Sunday. Early in the morning, a young man dressed in white robes with hair that reached his waist and a long sword on his back appeared at the entrance of the Wang family's small villa. After learning about the Immortal's treasure house, grenade-throwing senior Immortal had been excited all night. After taking Little Silver home from the police station, he had been thinking about the Immortal's treasure house. For everyone in the cultivation circle, this was a mysterious and enormous fortune left behind by Immortal Xuanhuan, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was a treasure trove that all cultivators flocked to like ducks. Ever since the news of the Immortal's treasure house was released, cultivators from both home and abroad had been searching for clues to the treasure house. This was the wealth left behind by a celestial sovereign. Anyone would want to take a bite out of it. Just as he reached the entrance of the villa, he saw a familiar figure in light green. At that moment, Loopy Toad was sitting cross-legged at the villa's entrance to do breathing exercises. Using the power of his heavenly eye, grenade-throwing senior Immortal could see the invisible torrent of spirit energy circulating endlessly inside Loopy Toad's body. It was very clear that Loopy Toad's aura was completely different from when grenade-throwing senior Immortal had seen it a while ago. If Loopy Toad's aura had been a little withered and dead before, its current aura was like the arrival of spring and the revival of all living things. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal's heart was a little shaken. It had only been soaked in holy beast blood once, yet such a big change had actually occurred. When all was said and done, it was Brother Ling. His judgment was indeed sharp. The holy beast blood had taken effect. Grenade-throwing senior Immortal sighed inwardly. He even felt that this could already be included in the current research topic of the Cultivation Academy of Science, the effects of the compatibility of soul and body on realms. This topic was still undergoing in-depth research to this day, a long time ago before the era of peace. In the cultivation world, the art of possession was prevalent. Some powerful cultivators who were about to reach the end of their lifespan would choose to find a young cultivator to possess, destroy their soul and take over their body. However, there were many limitations to the possession technique, and the most difficult one was the compatibility between the soul and flesh. In layman's terms, the art of possession was also about matching. Of course, in the current era of spirit energy information, the art of possession was also listed as a forbidden technique. However, it was allowed to be used in related medical fields. Every year there were always people who died of incurable diseases. Some of these people volunteered to donate their bodies. Their bodies were all used for the research of the possession technique. There were risks in the art of possession, and the research topic that was still being carried out was, after performing possession, how could the compatibility between soul and flesh reach the maximum value, while minimizing the risk, or even zero risk? If they could solve this problem, those who had made outstanding contributions to humanity but were about to reach the end of their lifespans would have a much higher chance of survival after using the possession technique. After fusing with an ordinary Akita, Loopy Toad was able to fuse the soul of a demon king with its body to this extent. In grenade-throwing senior Immortal's opinion, this was basically a miracle. After waiting at the door for a while, grenade-throwing senior Immortal noticed that Loopy Toad had changed again. He noticed that there was a faint azure spirit light hovering around Loopy Toad. A few seconds after this blue spirit light condensed, it spread out in all directions with Loopy Toad as the center, layer upon layer like waves. After repeating this process more than 10 times, grenade-throwing senior Immortal heard a soft hum, and light burst out from the top of Loopy Toad's head. A second later, the light dissipated and Loopy Toad opened its eyes. It stood on all fours, an incredulous expression on its dog face. It had actually leveled up just like that? Loopy Toad was stunned. When had it been so easy to advance from Class 3 to Class 2? How many days had it been? Loopy Toad felt that it might have cultivated a false Immortal. Sure enough, following Brother Ling has a bright future. On the side, grenade-throwing senior Immortal couldn't help exclaiming in admiration. This advancement was indeed godly. If word of this got out, it might directly break the record for the shortest time a third-class spirit beast had advanced to a second-class spirit beast. By the way, I've seen Brother Loopy Toad cultivate all this time. Don't you have a suitable battle technique? Spirit beast's fighting style was actually different from that of cultivators. Before they could cultivate a human form, more spirit beasts would choose to focus on battle techniques, which would coordinate with their master's instructions to support their attacks. There weren't many spirit beasts that could naturally cast spells. The Toad clan's fighting style was actually quite unique, and there was a huge gap between them and dog-type spirit beasts who were skilled in battle techniques. In layman's terms, the entire Toad clan was actually fatons. They could take a beating, Actually, they really weren't very good at it. At most, they could use long-range spells to spit or something like that. Sometimes when Loopy Toad thought about it carefully, it always felt that the reason that bunch of demon kings had been so eager to push it out back then might have been because they had regarded the Toad clan as fatons. There was actually a misunderstanding in this. Fatons were indeed flesh, but this flesh was only flesh for a mage. In essence, they were still mages. No matter how fleshy a mage was, could they be more fleshy than a warrior with 100 million HP? Thinking this, Loopy Toad couldn't help sighing and shaking its head. I haven't found anything suitable or to my liking yet. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. I'll have Brother Little Silver search carefully later and come up with a list to see if there's any battle technique that Brother Loopy Toad likes and is suitable for you to cultivate. Loopy Toad nodded. That was a good idea. It had heard that the silver unicorn was no less than 8,000 years old. It definitely had a lot of experience. But this would have to wait until later. Loopy Toad was very clear about Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's purpose for coming today. It was the Immortal's treasure house. But to be honest, whether or not that Taoist Guang's information about the Immortal's treasure house in the soul space was correct, Loopy Toad still doubted whether the Immortal's treasure house really existed in the world. Every year, so many people had expended so many resources to look for it, but to no avail. Who knew if the treasure house was real or not? But doubts aside, since it now had a clue about the treasure house, Loopy Toad actually wanted to hear what that Taoist Guang had to say. Is that Senior who knows about the treasure house inside now? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked as he followed Loopy Toad in. He changed into slippers with ease as if he were in his own home. It's a little complicated to explain, Loopy Toad said as it walked toward Wang Ling's bedroom. In short, that Senior now exists deeply in my mind and in my dreams. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal turned pale with fright. What? Is it now fashionable to have a portable grandpa in your head? Shouldn't it be in a ring? Loopy Toad, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help sighing. He was becoming more and more confused about trends in the cultivation circle nowadays. As expected, he was getting old. Chapter 406. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal followed Loopy Toad upstairs and happened to see Father Wang yawning as he walked toward the bathroom from the study. He guessed that Father Wang must have stayed up all night writing again. When he saw the two dark circles under Father Wang's eyes, he had been startled. Senior Wang's realm was so high, but he had consumed so much energy to write a novel. It looked like there was definitely something special about it. Every author on the website had a fan team that specialized in attracting diehard fans to join them. Last time, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had seen Father Wang's fan team soar to the top of the list, with a total of more than 13 million fans, while the author in second place had no more than 2 million fans. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had specially watched the live streaming life of the Immortal King, and had even specially given it a large sum of money in order to find common topics to talk about with Senior Wang. To be honest, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this novel was pretty well written, especially from a commercial point of view. It was indeed a mainstream hit. However, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always been puzzled as to why Father Wang had written this novel. Could Senior Wang's realm be so high just to make money? There was definitely some secret hidden here that no one knew about. It looked like he hadn't researched it deeply enough. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal looked at Father Wang's back as he walked toward the bathroom and pondered in his heart. He would definitely discover the secret in the novel. Perhaps Senior Wang's secret cultivation recipe was inside. Standing at the door to Wang Ling's room, Loopy Toad's eye twitched when it saw the young man in white staring at Father Wang's back and not coming in. It knew that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was most likely imagining things again. Wang Ling had already been waiting in the room for a long time. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had been thinking about the Immortal's treasure house all night, and so had Wang Ling. In a situation where cultivators all over the world had racked their brains to find clues about the Immortal's treasure house to no avail, this Taoist Guang was very likely the only one who knew some inside information. As for Taoist Guang's existence, only Wang Ling, Loopy Toad and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew. This was huge news for any cultivator. The young man in white was keenly aware that Wang Ling was willing to tell him this out of trust in him. Brother Ling, I've brought what you wanted. When they entered the room, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't stand on ceremony and directly sat down cross-legged. Then he took out a crimson-black polyhedron crystal from his lapel. Wang Ling had asked Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to specially bring them over. This thing was called a magnetic stone, and after causing havoc at Immortal Mansion back then, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had plundered a lot of rare materials and magnetic stones were one of them. Moreover, its value was not lower than the grand primordium black crystal that had been melted into the stone ghost mask. It was a first-grade super rare material. Wang Ling knew a little about refining weapons. Materials could be divided into 4 categories and 5 grades. The magnetic stone belonged to the first grade, so it was priceless. But grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still didn't quite understand what Wang Ling wanted the magnetic stone for. Senior Taoist Guang is currently sealed in a soul space, which is connected to me, said Loopy Toad. Combined with what Loopy Toad had said earlier, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly understood. No wonder Brother Loopy Toad said that Senior was in your dream. It looks like it's the kind of soul that enters a space when you dream. Speaking up to this point, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was a little astonished. This was clearly a technique that only a great senior could use, which was enough to prove that Taoist Guang's level wasn't low. At the very least, he was a peak itinerant immortal, infinitely close to the tribulation stage. Since this Taoist Guang is now in the soul space, this proves that he is in fact a soul body. His strength should be weaker in this state, right? What level is this Taoist Guang at now? Loopy Toad felt that there was nothing to hide. True immortal. Even in this situation he was still a true immortal. This Taoist Guang is a little strong. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal made this judgment almost instantly. True immortals were actually quite rare. Among the major incidents that had happened recently, General E aside, the Master of Immortal Mansion was just an itinerant immortal. Aren't you nervous? Loopy Toad suddenly stared at the young man in white and asked, "What's there to be nervous about?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was speechless. Aren't Senior Wang and old Senior Wang in the villa true immortals? Loopy Toad almost burst out laughing when it heard this. It turned out that this imagination misunderstanding had continued until now. Judging from grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's imagination, Loopy Toad felt that this misunderstanding most likely wouldn't be cleared up in a short time. After all, it was because of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's imagination that the price of broccoli on the market was now extremely high. A while ago, Loopy Toad had seen on the news that the Municipal Bureau of Supervision was looking for the culprit behind the price hike. When it had seen the news, it had almost spat out the flies it had eaten that night. By the way, what on earth do you want this magnetic stone for, Brother Ling? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help asking when he saw Wang Ling at the desk, holding the magnetic stone in his hand as he earnestly flipped through relevant books. Do you even need to ask? Magnetic stones are rare materials for forging, and are the most suitable for making rings. That senior is still in the soul space, so I have to move Taoist Guang's soul space into the ring. Loopy Toad replied. The corners of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mouth twitched. It turned out that after going around in circles, he still had to use the ring. Sure enough, old grandpas and rings were the norm. On a rainy day, old grandpas and rings were even more compatible? Then, what is Brother Ling looking at now? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal covered his mouth and asked in a low voice. He was sitting cross-legged behind Wang Ling. After Wang Ling had taken the magnetic stone from him, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had seen Wang Ling turn around to look up information, so he hadn't dared disturb him. I'm learning how to refine weapons, Loopy Toad said lightly. If I don't learn how to refine weapons, how can I make a ring? When Loopy Toad said this, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was suddenly enlightened. As a smith, Fatty Luo didn't know about Taoist Guang, so he couldn't ask Fatty Luo to make a ring for him. Right now, this matter was still in a strictly confidential stage. So Brother Ling is learning how to refine weapons. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal nodded. But very quickly, a stunned expression appeared on his face, and he couldn't help turning to look at Loopy Toad. Wait, learning how to refine weapons. Brother Ling, haven't you learned it before? Loopy Toad, no, that's why I'm teaching myself now. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Loopy Toad, in any case refining weapons isn't difficult. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Saying this, Loopy Toad pointed to a stack of books on the side of the desk. Little Master has read all these books and has already mastered them all. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal picked up the stack of books and looked at them carefully. They ranged from Guide to Refining Weapons, Basic Weaponsmiths, Bronze Weaponsmiths, Silver Weaponsmiths, Gold Weaponsmiths. Every stage was covered, and the last book was titled King of Weaponsmiths. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Did Brother Ling read all these last night? Loopy Toad shook its head. No. I read them 10 minutes ago. Chapter 407. Looking at the pile of refining materials on the floor, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal slowly put down the book in his hand, then sat down obediently on the floor, and took a deep breath. After careful consideration, he decided to forget everything he had just seen. Grenade-throwing senior immortal couldn't imagine how heartbreaking Fatty Luo would be if he saw this scene. Since when could refining weapons be self-taught like math, physics, and chemistry? Grenade-throwing senior immortal thought it was incomparably mystical. This technique had been passed down by the older generation in the cultivation circle, and was as old as alchemy. Then, could Brother Ling also learn alchemy by himself? Thinking this, grenade-throwing senior immortal silently wiped at his sweat. Sure enough, he was inhuman. It really seemed that anything could happen in Wang Ling's hands. Grenade-throwing senior immortal felt that he was witnessing history once again when he became a king-level weaponsmith on his own in 10 minutes. After learning by himself, he wouldn't even need to find someone to refine weapons in the future. Learn a little, learn a little. Refining weapons didn't cost a penny? But why didn't Brother Ling learn before? Grenade-throwing senior immortal couldn't help asking. He asked in a very low voice for fear of disturbing Wang Ling's study. Grenade-throwing senior immortal knew Wang Ling's habits. He couldn't be easily disturbed while he was studying. It was like stroking a cat upside down. It was easy to make the cat explode. Loopy Toad replied softly, "Little Master Ling feels that he should focus on his main business." Grenade-throwing senior immortal? What main business? Loopy Toad, weekly exams, monthly exams, midterm exams. Grenade-throwing senior immortal? Loopy Toad, everything has to be prioritized. In fact, there was a second half of the sentence that Loopy Toad didn't say. It had originally wanted to say that Wang Ling usually spent a very limited amount of time studying each day, 5 minutes at most, no more. After all, refining weapons was a little more complicated than high school courses, so it was reasonable for him to spend a little more time. Loopy Toad felt that Wang Ling had already learned king-level weaponsmiths in just 10 minutes was already giving him a lot of face. Looking at the alarm clock in the room, Loopy Toad felt that it was about time. Sure enough, after the second hand made another round, Wang Ling closed the book. The materials Wang Ling was looking at were all professional materials for the joint examination of the professional refiners. Seeing Wang Ling close the book, grenade-throwing senior immortal couldn't help leaning forward to take a look. Good heavens, this book's professional ranking was indeed above that of King of Refiners. It was already King 3-star. Actually, Wang Ling could have raised his level to a higher level, but refining a magic ring that could accommodate a soul space just so happened to require a king level of 3 stars, so Wang Ling chose to stop there. If he wanted to refine more advanced magic artifacts later, he would just have to learn how to do it. In any case, it would only take a few more minutes. It was no trouble at all. Grenade-throwing senior immortal. But Brother Ling, will this really work? Grenade-throwing senior immortal was skeptical about this godly learning efficiency. No problem, Wang Ling said telepathically, his voice as cold as ever as he nodded rather easily. Originally, among the 3,000 great Daos that he had mastered, there was actually a great tool refining technique. However, this technique could not be activated normally. That was because at that time Wang Ling had lacked the theoretical knowledge related to refining weapons. But now, Wang Ling had directly raised his theoretical knowledge to King 3-star in a short 15 minutes. In some sense, the higher his theoretical knowledge was, the higher his level of refining weapons would be. Wang Ling had never used the great tool refining technique of the 3,000 great Daos to refine a magic artifact before. This was his first attempt. But Wang Ling was also well aware that using the great tool refining technique to refine a weapon also had its limitations. This was a quick way to refine a weapon which focused on speed. As for quality, he would have to rely on luck. Wang Ling held the magnetic stone in his hand. It was large enough to be the size of an adult man's fist. If used carefully, he could refine 10 of them. Then the first step was to melt this magnetic stone. Although grenade-throwing senior immortal didn't know how to refine a weapon, he knew the steps involved. Seeing Wang Ling's posture, he already knew that Wang Ling was about to start refining a weapon. After looking around Wang Ling's room, he had a puzzled expression on his face. "Brother Ling, where's your crafting furnace? Did you put it away?" Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked. "I don't need it." Wang Ling shook his head. Grenade-throwing senior immortal was baffled. "Don't need it?" "I don't need it." Wang Ling shook his head. What did that mean? Then, right under grenade-throwing senior immortal's nose, Wang Ling stretched out his hand and a ball of spirit light appeared. Golden light. Dazzling. What the hell? A golden legendary? Grenade-throwing senior immortal was utterly shocked by the light. Could it be? This was a legendary alchemy furnace? Grenade-throwing senior immortal's heart trembled as a myriad of thoughts ran through his mind. Given Wang Ling's strength, to be honest, It wasn't strange at all that he owned a legendary alchemy furnace. Dozens of seconds later, the golden light gradually faded, and what came into view was a black rectangular box that looked a little familiar. The design of this crafting furnace was a little unique. "Brother Ling, have I seen this magic treasure somewhere before?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's heart trembled. Loopy Toad, of course you have. This is our microwave oven. Realization dawned on Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Oh, so it's a microwave oven. Speaking of which, when old Senior Wang had been stir-frying broccoli in the kitchen earlier, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had specially observed him on the side, trying to comprehend heavenly Tao from the way old Senior Wang had done it. At that time, it was as if he had seen a microwave oven in the same shape as this magic treasure in front of him. Wait, what magic treasure? This was clearly a microwave oven. But why does Brother Ling want this microwave oven? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't figure it out no matter how he thought about it. Just as he was about to ask a question, he saw Wang Ling directly turn on the microwave oven and put the magnetic stone inside. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sucked in a cold breath at this scene. Wang Ling turned on the microwave oven's temperature setting knob to the max, set the time dial to the max, and closed the door. His movements could be said to be as smooth as flowing water. Then, right under Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's nose, Wang Ling turned on the switch. With a wung-wung sound, the microwave oven started to flicker. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, "Brother Ling, what are you doing?" It was rare for Wang Ling to personally respond. "Smelting." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt like he had been struck by lightning, and he straightaway stood up in excitement. Using a microwave oven? What kind of operation is this? A piece of background music suddenly came to his mind. "We're different." At Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's feet, Loopy Toad had an indifferent expression on its face. "Senior Immortal, how many times have you been to the villa? Can you not make such a fuss?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, "Loopy Toad, this is normal operation. Sit down. Chapter 408. Sure enough, this microwave has been enchanted as well? Or perhaps he should ask another question. Was there anything in this villa that hadn't been enchanted? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help wiping at his sweat. He had actually seen a lot of enchanted magic treasures in the Wang family's small villa, from the fridge, the air conditioner, the washing machine, the toilet, the wardrobe, the rice cooker. It seemed that nothing had escaped the net. As for this enchanted microwave, this was Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's first time seeing it. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't know whether these enchanted furniture had any destructive power, but they were definitely very practical. Even if some of the furniture was just a decoration after being enchanted, these enchanted furniture might look like tuatara clams. They looked useless, but they were awesome. Staring at the microwave, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sank into deep thought. Then, his thoughts were quickly interrupted by the ding of the microwave. What the hell? That was it? It hadn't even been 2 minutes. The corners of Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's lips couldn't help twitching as he struggled to restrain his urge to complain. The magnetic stone was one of the harder metals used in artifact forging. If it was smelted in a normal artifact forging furnace, it would require a spirit flame as the medium to control the temperature of the furnace to be around 15,000 degrees Celsius and burn it for about 4 hours before it could be successfully smelted. But now, Wang Ling had tossed the magnetic stone into the enchanted microwave, and it had been smelted in just 2 minutes. If word of this got out, who knew how many weaponsmiths would cough up blood in front of their crafting furnaces? Very good. It was very scientific. He turned on the microwave and used the gravitation spell to draw out the metal liquid from the successfully smelted magnetic stone. After it was smelted, the metal liquid was a grayish gold color with a faint luster. Wang Ling controlled the liquid metal to condense it into the shape of a ball in the air, which slowly floated in the air. "Brother Ling, what's the success rate of refining like this? Is there a chance of failure?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help asking out of curiosity. This refining speed was really too fast. If the success rate was still high at such a fast speed, that would really be abnormal. This was like buying 20 weapon enhancement scrolls with the remaining money in the game and directly enhancing them to plus 20 in one go. Under normal circumstances, regardless of whether it was refining or enhancing, it was a matter of chance. Since there was a chance of success, there was naturally a chance of failure. It was said that Fatty Luo had failed countless times in order to refine the pig armor. "I won't fail." Wang Ling stared at the ball of liquid metal floating in the air as he replied telepathically. 100% success rate? Hearing this, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sucked in a cold breath of air. He already didn't dare show too much astonishment for fear that the green-furred dog crouching at his feet would mock him. In fact, although the success rate of the great weapon refining technique was very high, there was a certain chance of failure. The reason why he was so certain and confident that he wouldn't fail was that he still had the effect of the Great Fortune spell from a few days ago. Wang Ling had activated this spell for Father Wang's lucky draw previously, and its effects still hadn't faded. After the Great Fortune spell was activated, it would last for 10 days. Because he wasn't very used to this spell, Wang Ling had always put it on the back burner. Now that it was used in conjunction with the great weapon refining technique, it was completely a fluke. If these two spells were used together, the success rate of refining a weapon would directly increase to the point where it would be difficult to fail. Unlike ordinary refining steps, when Wang Ling used the great weapon refining technique to refine a weapon, there was a special step, and that was molding. Compared to other weaponsmiths who relied purely on their hands to refine weapons, Wang Ling relied purely on meditation. Then Wang Ling stood in front of the floating ball of liquid metal and formed a seal with both hands. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw a ball of light emerge from the seal and gradually seep into the ball of liquid metal. What type of ring is Brother Ling refining? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was very curious as he watched from the side. There were different types of magic rings, and there were also many magic rings that had a built-in space. Those magic rings sold on the market now, if they didn't have an independent space in them, they would be embarrassed to say that they were magic rings. If a person could be stored in a ring, that would be even rarer. Loopy Toad took out a weapon refining atlas with its paw, which grenade-throwing Senior Immortal found inexplicable. This was an old ancient book that looked unusually dignified and thick, just like those magic books in the Western world. Its cover was made of leather, and there were 4 ancient cultivation characters stamped on it in gold. 8 divine weapons. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal usually studied ancient cultivation literature, so he could still understand this level of ancient writing. This was indeed a weapon refining atlas, but it actually wasn't rare at all. It was equivalent to an encyclopedia in the weapon refining circle, one of the 4 great masterpieces of the novel world. Not only was it widely circulated, no one even knew who the original author was. Thus, this atlas didn't have any copyright issues at all. Major booksellers had put different editions on sale in bookstores, and it was the kind that could be bought at any random Xinhua bookstore. The most important thing was that while 8 divine weapons had a fairly comprehensive record with detailed classifications of each type of magic weapon, the magic weapons that were usually used as examples in the atlas couldn't be refined at all. The art of refining weapons was intricate and complicated, and the slightest mistake could lead to failure. Although 8 divine weapons had a comprehensive record, it only gave an overview of how to refine magic weapons, and didn't have precise data. To put it bluntly, this was an incomplete atlas. Although each of the magic weapons recorded in it was very awesome, as far as grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew, no one in the weapon refining industry had been able to refine the magic weapons listed in 8 divine weapons. But grenade-throwing Senior Immortal found it a little strange. Brother Loopy Toad, why does the packaging of this 8 divine weapons seem a little different from what I remember? Loopy Toad, Senior Immortal, you might not know this, but this 8 classes of divine weapons was the original copy that was discovered. It was a gift from a fan of Father Wang's novel. The copies made by the booksellers on the market are actually more or less incomplete, but this one is very complete. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was surprised. A fan of old Senior Wang's novel? Loopy Toad, that's right, it's to provide material for Father Wang's novel. Which novel fan would give this kind of thing? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal broke out in a sweat. In this day and age, it was already good enough that fans of novels did not send razor blades to the authors. Or they would send gifts like crazy and cause trouble together, asking the author to add more chapters. Nowadays, the health of the livers of novel authors was very worrying. Loopy Toad, this fan is amazing, he even gave Father Wang cigars before. Ordinary people can't smoke those cigars. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, who? Loopy Toad, I can't say. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal? Chapter 409. This was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's first time seeing the complete version of the original 8 classes of divine weapons. Although the 8 classes of divine weapons was indeed a very famous blueprint for refining weapons, replicas were now all over the street. No one would find it strange even if they told others. But the complete version of the 8 classes of divine weapons was very amazing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that it had to be a gift from a powerful Big Senior's fan, but on second thought he felt that this was pretty normal. After all, Senior Wang's realm was unfathomable, so it was very normal for him to have such a big-shot fan. Furthermore, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that this was already indirect proof that Senior Wang's novel was unusual. In that newly written novel, there must be some cultivation methods in it. Otherwise, how could it attract the great senior who gave him the original copy of the 8 classes of divine weapons? Is the refining data in the original complete? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal asked. Loopy Toad, some, but it's actually not very complete. Compared with the replicas on the market, the original is complete because there are many magic weapons that don't appear in the replicas. As it spoke, Loopy Toad flipped through the thick pages of the book and quickly found the magic ring that Wang Ling was going to refine. Like the magic ring that our little Master Ling is about to refine, it doesn't appear in the replicas in the outside world. From the picture, the appearance of the ring was pure black. It was a black hoop and looked rather ordinary. However, it had a very domineering name, Soul Suppression Ring. According to the description in the 8 classes of divine weapons, the design of this magic ring had been inspired by an Almighty's reincarnation dream. Under this description, it also stated the main material needed to forge the Soul Suppression Ring, magnetic stones. And then there was nothing else. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal broke out in a sweat. This description was too short. The art of refining weapons was intricate and complicated. Just knowing the main material to refine a magic weapon, it was unlikely that one would succeed, right? But just as Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said this in his heart, Wang Ling's great weapon refining spell had already been activated on the other side. After Wang Ling's hand seal, the ball of liquid metal floating in the air started to spin at high speed, and then burst out with a brilliant light. About 30 seconds later, the light disappeared. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw that the ball of liquid metal in the air had completely disappeared, and a series of black rings fell from the sky and clattered to the ground. Yes, the refinement is successful. Wang Ling nodded, and with the gravitational spell, the magic rings on the ground flew into his hand one after another. The corners of Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's mouth twitched. This slap in the face was too quick. Fortunately, he didn't say it out loud just now. Otherwise, he would be in an awkward situation. In the refinement process, the main material was always the first. All the other materials used in the refinement process were auxiliary materials used to increase the success rate of the refinement process. Therefore, as long as one knew the main material and the diagram structure, and had a high success rate, there was no need to know what the secondary materials were. This time he had obtained a total of 10 rings, and from the looks of it, they all seemed pretty good. This time Wang Ling's view of the Great Fortune spell had changed a little. He wasn't used to using this spell because it focused a lot of attention on him. In any case, lucky people would always be the center of attention. But this time Wang Ling realized that when the Great Fortune spell was used in conjunction with refining weapons and elixirs, the effect was outstanding. Without the blessing of the Great Fortune spell, the success rate and the quality of the rings would have been much lower. Wang Ling gazed at the 10 rings in his hand. 9 of the newly refined soul suppression rings were, on average, 3rd class, holy weapons. The last one, Wang Ling's eyes flickered with a faint light. He hadn't expected to actually be able to refine a soul suppression ring of this quality. Sure enough, the effect of the Great Fortune spell was too heaven-defying. Otherwise, given the quality of the magnetic stone just now, the probability of refining a ring of this quality was less than 1 in 10 million. But Wang Ling didn't directly say this, because he was afraid that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal would be startled again. Brother Ling, what's the quality of these rings like? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly asked at that moment. Wang Ling chose a 2nd-class holy weapon magic ring, which he would use as a medium for Taoist Guang soul space. Then he picked out the highest quality magic ring from just now and directly tossed it to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Brother Ling, what's this? The young man in white looked overwhelmed when he caught the ring. Wang Ling said indifferently, "It's yours." Brother Ling, you're too polite. How could I accept it? As he spoke, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal directly put the ring on his finger. Wang Ling, Loopy Toad. The moment the magic ring entered his hand, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt a tremendous burst of spirit power. Judging from the quality of this magic ring, it was at least a sacred tool. But only Wang Ling himself knew that the quality of this magic ring wasn't as simple as it looked. Furthermore, it was likely that even a specialized weaponsmith such as Fatty Luo wouldn't be able to appraise it. This was because the quality of the magic ring itself was already beyond what their current level of weaponsmithing could detect. The magic ring he had just given out could save his life. To be honest, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had actually helped Wang Ling a lot from start to finish. Wang Ling understood the ways of the world. The birth of this magic ring had been a stroke of luck, and Wang Ling felt that giving it away as a gift could be considered fulfilling his wish. Furthermore, he had originally planned to give grenade-throwing Senior Immortal something, such as crispy noodle snacks, but he couldn't bear to do so. After that, Wang Ling gave the remaining 8 rings to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. He planned to give them to the people in the chat group. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was overjoyed. "Brother Ling, you're too polite. If the brothers and sisters in the group know, they'll definitely be very happy." After hearing this, Wang Ling lowered his head in silence, then said telepathically, "It's fine to give them away, but don't say anything." Fatty Luo wasn't in the habit of spamming the group and hadn't even joined it, but once he gave these rings away, he would definitely hear about it. This was Wang Ling's concern. And grenade-throwing Senior Immortal obviously also thought of this after Wang Ling's reminder. That was right, it was fine to give them away, but he absolutely couldn't say anything. If Fatty Luo found out that Brother Ling had spent less than 5 minutes refining these holy weapon rings, he might be so angry that he would directly bury his ancestral shop as a sacrifice to his ancestors. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help sighing. "Honestly, Brother Ling, this is the first time I've heard that refining weapons is so simple." Loopy Toad said, "Actually, the key is what you're refining. Don't you just poke a hole in the middle of these magic rings? It's actually very easy." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help laughing. "Brother Loopy Toad, there are plenty of rings with holes in the middle. When you cultivate a human form, I'll buy one for you to try." Chapter 410. Under normal circumstances, transferring one's soul space was a complicated matter that could only be handled by high-level cultivators. This was because the requirements for the spell used were quite high. Under normal circumstances, the highest spell that a soul formation cultivator could use was level 5, Perfected Person level 6, Itinerant Immortal level 7, and True Immortal level 8. And the spell to transfer a soul space was an advanced level 8 spell. Furthermore, there was a certain chance that it would fail when using a level 8 spell to transfer a soul space, and the worst-case scenario was that the soul space would be destroyed along with it. Thus, Taoist Guang had taken a huge risk when he had implanted the soul space into the Heavenly Fisher Stone back then. However, Wang Ling could completely ignore this situation. Because the 3,000 great spells he had mastered were above level 8, and were classified as super spells. Wang Ling actually had an estimate of their specific level, which was around 14 or 15. Thus, using the 3,000 great spells to move a space was a very different situation. Would the game experience be the same between level 8 and level 15? Of course it would be different. Thus, Wang Ling held the ring in one hand and stroked Loopy Toad's tender green dog head with the other as he was about to cast a spell to transfer the space into the soul suppression ring. Loopy Toad couldn't see any hand seals, but its head felt hot, but it was completely bearable. Spirit light emerged from Wang Ling's palm and instantly enveloped Taoist Guang's soul space. Taoist Guang stood on the island and waited calmly. He had already waited for many years and a little longer actually didn't matter. But at that moment he looked up at the sky. A bright golden light suddenly surged out from the cloud layer in the sky. It was just like a golden-colored ink that swiftly seeped out from the cloud layer. Within a couple of exchanges, it had covered the entire sky of the spiritual realm. Taoist Guang was extremely shaken. What kind of powerful spirit power was this? Even if he had successfully survived the samsara spirit tribulation and was at his peak, there was no way he could possess such great magic power. This senior was even more terrifying than he had imagined. As Taoist Guang watched Wang Ling's power almost completely merge with the space, a green dog head suddenly appeared in the air. "Taoist Guang," Loopy Toad's voice came out of the air like a Buddhist Buddha. "Senior Pang, my master is transferring your space. Please don't be nervous, remember to relax and don't resist." "All right." Taoist Guang nodded. He knew that the senior outside was giving him a way out on purpose. Because even if he was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to resist such power. It was utterly impossible to stop it. Taoist Guang was well aware of this, and he couldn't help sighing in his heart. When all was said and done, Taoist Guang was an old senior who had attained the great Tao. He handled matters like thunder, handled matters thoroughly, and considered every detail. Taoist Guang felt that there was a huge gap between him and Wang Ling in every aspect. Now that he thought about it carefully, he had already lost. Moreover, he had lost completely. It seemed like he could not win against any of them in terms of morality, intelligence, physique, beauty, or labor. This time it took him a long time to activate the spell. It took him a full 10 minutes to completely embed the entire soul space into the soul suppression ring. This was a true immortal level soul space after all. Thus, there would be some resistance when moving around. In fact, This was already more than 100 times faster than ordinary teleportation methods. Most importantly, it truly achieved zero risk. "You can come out now, Senior Pang," Loopy Toad said as it stared at the soul suppression ring in Wang Ling's hand. The moment the soul space had been embedded into the soul suppression ring, Taoist Guang had already sensed its power. His soul emerged little by little from the ring, and in the end he landed in Wang Ling's room. Taoist Guang swept his gaze around and saw a green-furred dog, a young man in white, and a youngster holding a ring in his hand in the room. "Thank you, Senior, for saving me." Taoist Guang immediately bowed to Wang Ling in thanks. "I'll leave it to you." Wang Ling got up and said indifferently telepathically. His task was already over, so he would leave the rest to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to ask questions while he listened on the side. Taoist Guang had clearly already sensed that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's relationship with Wang Ling wasn't simple, so he turned to ask, "Brother, you are?" "I'm Brother Ling's friend, Lei Murin. My Taoist name is Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal replied, "Of course, sometimes I also moonlight as his secretary. Brother Ling and Ling Jinren usually don't like to talk much. Senior Pang just needs to get used to it." Taoist Guang nodded in understanding. Of course. After all, every word from an expert of Senior Ling's realm could be a heavenly secret. But come to think of it, Senior Ling's realm is unfathomable, so why do you still call him Jinren? Everyone's already used to this title, and Brother Ling doesn't mind, so we might as well call him that. "It's just a title, Senior," Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said as he sat upright on the floor. Taoist Guang sighed. "It's me. But on the other hand, it's also because I haven't been out in a long time, and I don't know how the current cultivation circle is doing. I've been locked up for nearly 900 years, so I know that the outside world has definitely changed a lot by now." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. "Senior Pang's cultivation is so high, I believe you're a very adaptable person. You'll get used to it very quickly." Taoist Guang made a sound of agreement and then couldn't help asking, "One last question. I'd like to ask, what is this magic ring that holds my soul?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal replied, "This is the soul suppression ring which Brother Ling refined." "Soul suppression ring?" Taoist Guang was a little absent-minded. "Does Senior know the origin of this ring?" "No, I don't. I just thought of something." "Then let's get started." In exchange for helping Senior Pang promised us that he would tell us everything he knows about the Immortal's treasure house. I definitely know everything." But before Taoist Guang could finish speaking, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw Taoist Guang's soul unexpectedly flash and directly disappear. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal turned to look at Wang Ling. "Brother Ling, what's going on?" Loopy Toad, out of power? Wang Ling cupped his chin in thought. He guessed that this was the first time Taoist Guang's soul had left the ring, and the spirit power stored in the soul suppression ring hadn't been enough, which was why the ring had taken his soul back in advance. Since the soul was fixed in the ring, there was no way to communicate at all if it couldn't come out. The soul suppression ring was originally a magic artifact whose main purpose was to preserve the soul. The one in Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's hand was of a higher quality, and had other special effects than a holy weapon. Now, it would take a very very long time for the soul suppression ring to store spirit power again. "Brother Ling, do you have any other way?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal broke out in a sweat when he heard Wang Ling's telepathic analysis. After all, it was a true immortal soul and it definitely consumed a lot of spirit power. But to be automatically taken back by the ring before he could even say a few words, that was too much of a pain in the ass. "Put a computer in it," Wang Ling said telepathically after thinking for a bit. "There's this kind of operation?" Loopy Toad and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal were stupefied. Now that things had come to this, it didn't seem like there was any other way. Since Taoist Guang could embed the soul space into the ring, then he could also embed other things into the ring. If he could put an electronic product like a computer or a cell phone into the ring, even if Taoist Guang couldn't show himself, he could still chat. Furthermore, since the soul space had been embedded into the ring, Loopy Toad wouldn't be able to enter Taoist Guang's space even if it dreamed. Chapter 411. This was a situation that even Wang Ling hadn't anticipated. He had forgotten to estimate how much spirit power it would take for a soul to manifest in the real world through the power of a magic treasure. It took a whole day for the soul suppression ring to be fully charged with spirit power, but Taoist Guang appeared for less than 3 minutes each time, even shorter than Ultraman. There were 2 ways to solve this problem. One was to continue expanding the storage space for spirit power in the soul suppression ring, and the other was to suppress Taoist Guang's spirit power consumption. The problem was that both of these things required Taoist Guang's cooperation. The current situation was that because Taoist Guang's soul space had been transferred to the soul suppression ring, he would be completely cut off from the outside world before the next spirit power deposit was complete. Senior Pang must be very anxious. I have to find a way to contact him as soon as possible. But Brother Ling just said he was going to send the computer in. How are you going to do that? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal actually had a limited understanding of the soul space, but he still had basic knowledge about it. The structure of the soul space was intricate and complicated. Taoist Guang had given the blueprint to Loopy Toad previously because he had put it away in the soul space at the very beginning, and once it was taken out there was no way to put it back in. The Great Sacrifice spell, Wang Ling said indifferently, then revealed another of the 3,000 great spells that he had mastered. He didn't use this technique often. It was one of the more unpopular ones among the 3,000 great Tao. The origin of spells could be traced back to the ancient times. In that era there were many powerful beings who fought for supremacy. In the process of continuous battles between powerful beings, someone finally discovered a way to gain power in a short period of time by sacrificing living beings. This was the origin of the Grand Sacrificial spell. Of course, that was a dark period in history, and Wang Ling had developed a new use for the Great Sacrifice spell now. Since Brother Ling has a way, that's good. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't ask about the origin of this spell in detail. There were a lot of abilities that Wang Ling had that he had never heard of or seen before. A cultivator's personal spells were a relatively private matter to begin with. No matter how good their relationship was, it would be rude to ask about it rashly. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal then straightaway took out his phone and started tapping randomly on the screen. Since that's the case, let's not waste any more time, I'll place an order first. Loopy Toad, place an order? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, of course it's to buy a computer. We can't possibly send Brother Ling's own computer in, right? Loopy Toad, but are you sure Taoist Guang will use it? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal paused. Loopy Toad had indeed hit the nail on the head. Actually, when Taoist Guang had appeared just now, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's strong adaptability and whatnot were just polite words. For many seniors who had been in seclusion for a long time and had been out of touch with modern society for centuries, learning to use modern technology was much more difficult than learning a high-level spell. So it wasn't enough to just buy it. He also had to record a tutorial to teach Taoist Guang how to use a computer. At the very least, he had to learn the basics of chatting. After looking through the online shopping mall for a long time, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that buying a desktop computer at Taoist Guang's current stage was too complicated. Even if there was an instruction manual, Taoist Guang wouldn't be able to understand it in a short time. Later he simply picked a Crooked Alien Smart Notebook for the elderly. Although this Crooked Alien Notebook was labeled for the elderly, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had always felt that it was simply for lazy people. This type of notebook had been specially designed by businesses for older cultivators who wanted to learn how to use a computer. The notebook had an AI robot inside, so if you wanted to learn how to operate it, you just had to open your mouth and ask. You didn't even need a mouse or keyboard. However, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal still had to record a tutorial video to teach Taoist Guang how to turn it on. If he didn't know how to turn it on, everything would be for naught. As for the power source, there was even less to worry about. Many household appliances in modern cultivation society were powered by spirit power, and this kind of smart notebook for the elderly naturally had a built-in spirit power battery. Even if it was used for a whole month without turning it off, it would consume much less spirit power than if Taoist Guang made a trip on his own. Very good, it was decided. Place the order. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal pressed the payment button, and in passing also selected the express service, which would be delivered by Xuanhuan God Express in 20 minutes. I bought it, it'll be delivered in 20 minutes. The young man in white put down his phone and breathed a sigh of relief. How much is it? Loopy Toad couldn't help asking. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal waved his hand and quickly replied, not expensive, it's 800,000 HNY. Loopy Toad, of course he didn't think it was expensive. How much did it cost? Those holy artifact magic rings that Wang Ling had given her couldn't be bought for less than 1 million immortal gold bars. And this computer was only 600,000 and it was an HNY. It was simply ridiculously cheap. Loopy Toad cocked its head and stole a glance at Wang Ling, who was lying in bed bored to death, probably waiting for the express delivery. Although Loopy Toad couldn't see Wang Ling's expression on his face, it was sure that he had already converted 600,000 HNY into crispy noodle snacks. After that, Grenade-throwing senior immortal really did appear in person to record a tutorial for Taoist Guang. He was worried that if the tutorial was in the form of a video, Taoist Guang might not know how to open it. Thus, grenade-throwing senior immortal simply used his old method, which was to use a regular magic treasure called an image recording stone, instead of recording. The market for image recording stones was already quite small, and they were very cheap, but there were still people selling them. Grenade-throwing senior immortal usually carried a few with him in case he needed them. This was a habit he had developed a long time ago. Just as he finished recording with the image recording stone, sure enough, the doorbell of the Wang family's villa rang on time. A delivery man appeared at the door with a box in his arms. Although Wang Ling was lying in bed, this delivery man had in fact already entered his range of perception a long time ago. This guy's aura had fallen from the sky. When grenade-throwing senior immortal had gone out to pick up the express delivery, he had indeed seen the parachute the delivery man was carrying on his back. Grenade-throwing senior immortal looked at the sky. It seemed that he had indeed heard the sound of a plane just now, because of the consideration of labor costs. The vast majority of express delivery companies would hire couriers who were body refinement stage or refinement stage. At most, they would hire some foundation building stage cultivators. They would simply not hire cultivators who were above the Aurus core stage to deliver their packages, as it would be too wasteful. But it was these ordinary people who completed their tasks every day, rain or shine. What kind of unswerving determination was this? Grenade-throwing senior immortal sighed with emotion in his heart. Nowadays, a delivery man had to learn how to parachute. They were really working too hard. Holding the box, the delivery man took off the pen cap with his teeth. "Sir, your express delivery. Please sign for me." Grenade-throwing senior immortal swiftly signed and couldn't stop praising him. "Brother, your parachute jumping is pretty good. It's pretty accurate." "Sir, you flatter me, it's all because of my internet cafe training." The delivery man smiled slightly. Grenade-throwing senior immortal? Delivery man, eat more chicken, you can do it too. Grenade-throwing senior immortal? Chapter 412. On the abandoned construction site in front of the Wang family's small villa, Wang Ling had already finished drawing a sacrificial magic array. The characters on the array were very complicated and flickered with a dim golden light. But even if grenade-throwing senior immortal activated his heavenly eye, he wouldn't be able to see these words. He could only see some basic array characters. This sacrificial refinement formation was also a unique formation of the great sacrificial refinement art. The core characters used to set up the formation also originated from the word heaven, of the 3,000 great Taos. Even a true immortal would find it difficult to see through the formation characters derived from such a supreme technique. By the way, what kind of spell is this? Grenade-throwing senior immortal was very curious. Loopy Toad, it's also little Master Ling's first time using it, I'll just watch. He placed the soul suppression ring in the center of the sacrificial array, which was the eye of the array. Then he fetched the computer that grenade-throwing senior immortal had bought and put it on the array sub 1 meter away from the eye of the needle. Grenade-throwing senior immortal noticed that Wang Ling actually hadn't used the gravitational spell, but had personally placed his hand on the sacrificial array. He felt that there must be some profound and unfathomable words here. Wang Ling's strength was so great that even Taoist Guang, a true immortal, was extremely respectful of him. To be able to make such a friend and call him brother, the young man in white thought that he must have saved the world in his previous life. Clearly, he still had a lot to learn. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had actually been thinking about a lot of things in the last few days. For the sake of cultivation, he had been diligently studying. He studied the broccoli that old Senior Wang had given him. Not only did he manage to grow more, he even managed to develop a safe catalyst that could speed up the growth of the broccoli without being poisonous. Unfortunately, he was unable to comprehend the heavenly Tao. He had also read Senior Wang's latest novel, The Live-Streaming Life of the Immortal King. He could remember every word in every sentence and even the number of punctuation marks in a chapter. Unfortunately, he was unable to comprehend the heavenly Tao. He also wore the long johns that Mother Wang gave him, and he was reluctant to take them off. Unfortunately, he still couldn't comprehend the heavenly Tao. What was the reason that caused his current level to stagnate? Grenade-throwing senior immortal felt that Wang Ling was probably the biggest problem. If the reason Ling Jinren was so powerful was because he had lived with these great seniors in these villas all year round, then when all the objective conditions for comprehending heavenly Tao were met, grenade-throwing senior immortal suddenly realized that learning from Wang Ling was the real key to comprehending heavenly Tao. Thus, grenade-throwing senior immortal was now particularly concerned about Wang Ling's every move. "Brother Ling, what are you doing?" He couldn't help asking when he saw that Wang Ling hadn't moved after putting the notebook and its packaging into the array. As always, Wang Ling's words were concise and to the point. "Burn. Burn." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Loopy Toad on the side were both blank. Then, the young man in white and the green-furred dog at his feet saw a small flame rise from Wang Ling's finger. With a flick of his finger, the flame landed on the brand-new notebook's packaging. Whoosh! The flames burned fiercely. In the blink of an eye, tongues of flame had already swallowed up the packaging, and the brand-new notebook was instantly turned into a cloud of flying ash. After doing all this, Wang Ling put the soul suppression ring back into the array and said indifferently, "The sacrificial refinement is complete. This notebook, I've already burned it for him." Loopy Toad, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, one man and one dog were directly shocked. So this was how the great sacrifice refinement spell was used. It was as if Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was already imagining a scene from thousands of years in the future. His own son would kneel in front of his incense and set up the exact same sacrificial refinement array as Wang Ling had done, then cry out, "Grandpa, the author of that unique novel you were reading has resumed updating it. I'll burn it for you." At this thought, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help shuddering. Loopy Toad knew that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's imagination had most likely wandered into something strange again. On the other side, Wang Ling gazed at the soul suppression ring in his hand and sighed deeply in his heart. The notebook had already been burned for Taoist Guang, and the shadow recording stone tutorial which Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had prepared previously was hidden in the notebook's packaging. The two items had been burned together and sent over. As for how long it would take Taoist Guang to learn the basics of how to operate a notebook, that would depend on his luck. But Wang Ling knew that he couldn't rush the current situation. After all, the elderly were less able to absorb new things and he needed to be patient. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had originally planned to talk to Taoist Guang face-to-face, but hadn't expected this to happen. So there was no point in continuing to stand guard at the Wang family's villa. Before burning the notebook, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Wang Ling had set up a private discussion group, and they had also helped Taoist Guang apply for an account and pull him directly into the discussion group. As for the account and password, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had already explained in the shadow recording stone that if Taoist Guang learned how to operate it, he should be able to go online on his own. So instead of waiting here bitterly, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that he should make full use of this time to send the holy artifact magic rings that Wang Ling had given him to the other people in the chat group one by one. Wang Ling had burned the notebook at a little after 10 o'clock, and Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had left the villa at 11 o'clock. Standing on the second floor, Wang Ling watched the young man in white kiss the soul suppression ring in his hand as he left elatedly. Then, not long after Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal left, Wang Ling suddenly noticed that the chat group seemed to have become lively. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. "Everyone, I'm here to give each of you a surprise." Xianxia, what surprise? Lightning Dharmaraja? Benefits? But it's not the new year yet. It wasn't that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had never given benefits in the group in the past, but it was indeed a little strange since it wasn't a holiday or the new year yet. Stunned, Immortal Toya sent a sweating emoji. Could it be that Senior Immortal lost a bet with someone and now wants to send a cross-dressing photo in the group? Lightning Dharmaraja immediately replied, "I think it's very likely." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't care at all, and just sent several smiley emojis in a row. When I find you you'll know. I'll send them to each of you now, everyone will have one." Lightning Dharmaraja sent a funny emoji. "Senior Immortal, you actually don't have to specially send a cross-dressing photo." As soon as Dharmaraja sent this message, the group instantly fell silent. Because generally speaking, anyone who took the initiative to tease the group leader would most likely be banned. And in this group, the only person who dared challenge the group leader's authority was Lightning Dharmaraja. However, to everyone's surprise, this time, not only didn't Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal reply, he didn't even ban them. Lightning Dharmaraja was shocked. What's going on?" Xianxia sked. "It seems that Senior Immortal is particularly happy today. I remember that the last time Senior Immortal sent several smiley emojis in a row was when he received a gift from his ex-girlfriend. But less than 2 seconds after sending this string of words, Xianxia immediately pressed the withdraw button. Lightning Dharmaraja, I saw it. Immortal Toya, I saw it. Fangxing, I saw it. Little Silver, it seems he knows something incredible. Buling Blade Immortal, Holy F***CK, I saw it. 9 times Man in One Night, Amazing, Ling Jinren. Xianxia never thought that there would actually be so many people watching, and even Ling Jinren was there. This was a little embarrassing. She had promised grenade-throwing Senior Immortal that she wouldn't tell anyone, but she hadn't been careful just now and hadn't been able to help herself. Just as Xianxia was about to say something to ease the awkwardness, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal actually sent a voice message to the group. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal also added a message to the voice message. This was a song that was quite popular recently. It was called Take You on a Trip. And this voice recording was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's version. Chapter 413. Wang Ling hadn't expected his gift to make grenade-throwing Senior Immortal so happy. The problem was that while the young man in white had been pleasantly surprised when he had received the gift at the villa just now, he hadn't been so elated that he had to sing to express his emotions. Wang Ling suddenly felt that he had unearthed one of grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's hidden attributes. This was probably what people called being indifferent on the inside. Wang Ling had always felt that he was the only one who had this problem. But then again he remembered that this, Take You on a Journey, was probably one of the more popular songs recently. A few days ago he had seen Super Chin wearing headphones to play the single on loop after class. He even played the school radio broadcast during the lunch break every Thursday, making the whole campus feel like they were in love. Apart from this song there was another brainwashing song recently, and that was We're Different. But the problem was that he had never heard grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sing before. So when they saw grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sing, it wasn't just Wang Ling. Everyone else in the group froze in front of their screens for 3 seconds. Dharmaraja was blank for a moment, then directly typed in the group, Senior Immortal, although I haven't listened to it yet, do you know? Fat Tiger? Everyone, Xianxia, Dharmaraja, it's better if you listen to it, it's very rude of you. Dharmaraja, I'm just worried that Senior Immortal has developed some kind of musical weapon and wants us to experiment with it. For a moment, the group fell into a brief silence. Because no one could figure out what on earth was wrong with Senior Immortal today, who was actually so happy that he couldn't help singing. At that moment, it was Little Silver who took the lead in cheering him on. Everyone listen to it, Senior Immortal sings very well. Appreciating the song, Wang Ling clicked on grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's a cappella. As a holy beast, Little Silver usually didn't listen to human music, but he still had the ability to appreciate it. And as Little Silver had said, Wang Ling felt that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal actually sang very well. Not only was every note in tune, his voice was also very distinctive. It was completely different from his normal speaking voice and gave off a warm, male senior vibe. Loopy Toad was also pleasantly surprised. It seems that Senior Immortal has some skill. When he turned his head to look at the chat group again, there were already a lot of likes and cheers. Xianxia was a little excited and gave him several thumbs up. You sang really well, Jinren. It's the first time I've heard a perfected sovereign sing, and he's even able to record it with his phone. He's really amazing. Immortal Toya couldn't help praising her. Indeed, she sang very well. At that moment, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had only just finished singing the main song, and then the chorus started to play. Wang Ling suddenly felt that something wasn't right. Xianxia, did you sing the wrong lyrics? Why are the lyrics of the chorus a little different from what I've heard before? Shouldn't the first sentence be, I want to take you to romantic Turkey? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal finally replied, I didn't sing it wrong, I changed the lyrics. I have a habit of changing my lyrics when I sing. Xianxia replied, so that's how it is. But Immortal's words are quite rhyming. At least at first glance, it doesn't feel out of place. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal? Really? Ah. I also think I have a talent for writing lyrics. Roughly 3 seconds later, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal very confidently posted the lyrics he had changed. A grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's demonic version of Take You on a Trip. Lyrics of the chorus, I want to take you to romantic Turkey, then we'll go to the holy land of cultivation together. Actually, I prefer to stay at home, eat crispy noodle snacks to stave off hunger. After reading the lyrics, the entire chat group fell into a dead silence. Wang Ling sucked in a cold breath. In order to make the lyrics rhyme. That was too crazy. In the blink of an eye, it was already afternoon. After Wang Ling clicked on grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's song, he couldn't calm down for a long time. At that moment, Wang Ling suddenly heard Father Wang's blood-curdling screams from the villa. They were so mournful that they sounded like the main characters in Detective Conan who had discovered the scene of a murder. Loopy Toad abruptly raised its dog head. What's going on? Wang Ling didn't need to look to know that it had to be Father Wang's old problem acting up again. He could tell from the intensity of Father Wang's blood-curdling screams what on earth had happened to him. This inhumane howl of pain. Wang Ling guessed that Father Wang's hemorrhoids were definitely acting up again. This was a valuable experience that Wang Ling had accumulated over the years in the villa. Hemorrhoids were Father Wang's old problem, and the main cause was a lack of exercise and sedentary behavior. It was completely caused by poor living habits. First of all, Father Wang hardly ever went out, and spent all day sitting in an armchair in the study typing. Apart from that, the toilet bowl in the bathroom was second only to the armchair in the study as Father Wang's favorite place to visit. According to Mother Wang, if you added up all the time Father Wang spent sitting on the toilet bowl, it would be enough to make a person contemplate 3 lifetimes, and maybe even see peach blossoms 10 li away. The most important thing was that Father Wang's hemorrhoids had an extremely strong resistance to drugs. Ordinary medicine couldn't cure them. Every time they acted up, he would have to apply the special medicine that Immortal Toya had developed. He had also seen the Medicine King token before. It was a pile of powder that looked shiny and cold to the touch at his fingertips. Pouring it on the affected area for about 30 seconds would immediately cure it. But the price he had to pay was a heart-wrenching pain. Of course, Wang Ling could actually cure a minor illness like this. But Father Wang wouldn't let him treat it no matter what. Father Wang felt very ashamed to have his own son treat his hemorrhoids. As the head of the family, if he couldn't even overcome a minor illness like this, how could he shoulder the heavy responsibility? This was a man's dignity. If you were a man, you would overcome hemorrhoids on your own. This was a vow Father Wang had made in his heart after his first hemorrhoid attack back then. After a full minute or so, Father Wang's screams continued to ring out. This time, it seemed to be taking a little longer, so Wang Ling decided to take a look. Generally speaking, the scream should have stopped in about 30 seconds. Wang Ling had just come downstairs when Father Wang's screams stopped. He was lying on the sofa with his forehead beaded with sweat, looking as weak as a rich lady who had just given birth. Mother Wang put away the medicine and couldn't help reprimanding him. Your illness is caused by looking at your phone on the toilet. When you go to the toilet later, I'll cut off the internet. No way. Even if it hurts to death. You can't cut off my internet. Father Wang was excited. Every morning when I sit on the toilet is when I open my Smurf account and fight the trolls. Alright then. Cut off the internet. I have another way. Mother Wang couldn't help smiling. There was a hint of slyness in her smile, which startled Wang Ling and Loopy Toad. Then Mother Wang turned to look at Wang Ling. Ling, you came just in time. Contact Little Ming later and have him deliver your father's birthday present in advance. Wang Ling, Father Wang, what? Little Ming prepared a present for me? Mother Wang smiled. That's right, Little Ming personally custom-made it for you. Father Wang, isn't it too early for my birthday? What's the hurry? By the way, what's this present? Mother Wang continued to smile. An intelligent hemorrhoid prevention toilet. Father Wang, Wang Ling, Mother Wang, the longer you sit on the toilet, the hotter it gets. Little Ming said that even a nascent soul cultivator will have to stand up in less than 5 minutes. Father Wang. Chapter 4:14. Father Wang had just applied the medicine. Although the hemorrhoids were completely healed, the cool sensation left behind by the special medicine was as stimulating as Wang Zhaojuan's repeated blows between his thighs. This cool feeling would last for a very long time. After the intense stinging pain from the medicine was over, there would be a persistent numbness that spread throughout the lower half of Father Wang's body, so he wouldn't be able to move for a while. Women are the most vicious. Lying on the sofa, Father Wang wailed in despair in his heart. When he thought about how he would no longer be able to sit on the toilet and ponder over the plot for a long time in the future, Father Wang despaired and couldn't help roaring. The toilet was every creator's mental food, a source of mental energy. This was also Loopy Toad's first time seeing Father Wang's hemorrhoids flare up, and it was quite frightened. There were times when Loopy Toad actually didn't quite understand why some stubborn people were so fixated on their so-called dignity. It was just hemorrhoids. Loopy Toad felt that if it had one, it would definitely stick its butt over and let Wang Ling touch it without a second thought. What was wrong with touching its butt? It wasn't like it would lose a piece of flesh. This was a rare daily anecdote, and Loopy Toad felt that this question was worth thinking about. So, in the end, Loopy Toad decided to write about this in its Human Observation Diary, with the title, If You Have Hemorrhoids and Your Butt Is Touched, Would You Rather Be Touched or Preserve Your Integrity? This was an order from Mother Wang herself, and Wang Ling naturally didn't dare disobey. There were 3 toilets in the Wang family's small villa, so there were 3 toilet bowls in total. Wang Ling's bedroom had its own bathroom, which was where that enlightened Lord Ma was. And the ones Mother Wang wanted to replace were the 2 outside. Wang Ling had just texted Wang Ming when Wang Ming replied almost instantly, "Oh? Miss me again?" Wang Ling did his best to resist the urge to crush his wristwatch, and truthfully explained what Mother Wang had told him just now. After learning the whole story, Wang Ming was delighted, and he grinned widely in front of the screen, baffling the other people in the research institute. Only President Qi, with one hand in his pocket and the other holding the large cup of water that old cadres used, watched this scene calmly, as if he had already seen through everything long ago. Wang Ming's reply came very quickly. "What? Uncle Wang's hemorrhoids acted up again? Last time I told him to sit less and exercise more. It's not good to squat on the toilet all the time. It's easy to cause bacterial infections. Don't worry, I'll take care of this. I'll arrange for someone to come and assemble it tomorrow." Wang Ming had already prepared this birthday present beforehand, so it was just a matter of sending it in advance. However, there was another awkward situation. That was, he had to prepare a new gift on his birthday. Wang Ming also expressed his opinion on Father Wang's hemorrhoids incident. Very quickly, Wang Ling received another message from Wang Ming. Actually, it's Uncle Wang's fault, who told him to have an unstable schedule. Once your endocrine system is out of balance, it doesn't matter how many nutritionists you eat. Wang Ling stared at the message in a daze, thinking that it was rare for his idiot brother to be serious for once. He was wondering if he should reply seriously as well. Wang Ming's next message came in. "Isn't it just being touched by my son, just a touch? If I get hemorrhoids, you can do whatever you want." The corner of Wang Ling's mouth twitched. He just knew that this guy wouldn't be so serious. On the other side, Wang Ming could almost imagine the expression on Wang Ling's face when he saw this message. Wang Ming felt that apart from doing scientific research and inventing, he had to find all the fun in his life from Wang Ling. Wang Ming privately thought that teasing Wang Ling was a very interesting thing. Most people wouldn't be able to do it. Wang Ling had just finished texting Wang Ming, but the chat group wasn't idle. Looking at the messages that had popped up on the screen, he was suddenly surprised to find that he had actually been pulled into a group chat called Gossip Conference Room. Furthermore, this group chat had just been set up, and it just so happened that the creator was Lightning Dharmaraja. At that moment, more and more people were being pulled from grenade-throwing Senior Immortals chat group next door into this temporary group chat which Dharmaraja had created himself. Wang Ling swept his gaze over the group members and found that most of them were there, except for Little Silver and grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Icham. This was already quite obvious. Gossip Conference Room. Lightning Dharmaraja. "Everyone. I want to expose. I want to expose. I have gossip, I can't hold it in any longer." Silian Jinren sent a few sweat-wiping emojis. "Dharmaraja, please calm down. Speak slowly. Do you remember when you were too excited and caused the Godly Thunder inheritance to leak out and cause a large-scale power outage in the area?" Immortal Toya was blank. "There was such a thing?" Silian Jinren, "Yes." Later, Dharmaraja pretended to be a warm-hearted citizen and personally went to repair it. He was even awarded a silk banner later. In front of the screen, everyone couldn't help sucking in a cold breath when they saw what Silian Jinren had just said. What kind of trick was this? Lightning Dharmaraja. "Jinren, don't interrupt me, I'm talking about serious business. Why are you exposing me? What I'm going to say today is much more explosive." Mr. Toya had been preparing to refine elixirs with a pile of materials ready. He was a little unhappy at being interrupted just as he was about to start the furnace. "I say, Dharmaraja, why haven't I seen you so gossipy before?" Lightning Dharmaraja. "You don't know how explosive this matter is. Let me tell you, Senior Immortal is probably already married in secret." Silian Jinren, "Nanny?" Immortal Toya, "What the hell?" Feng Xing. Wang Ling. Silian Jinren took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. "Didn't Senior Immortal give us something? How do you know he's married?" Ring. "I saw Senior Immortal wearing a ring." Without saying anything else, Dharmaraja directly took a photo of the soul suppression ring and sent it to the group chat. "See, Senior Immortal is wearing this ring. Moreover, he even gave me an identical magical ring. Could it be that this still isn't enough to explain the problem?" Feng Xing couldn't help laughing. "So Senior Immortal wanted to give us magic rings. But, isn't it a little too arbitrary for Dharmaraja to conclude that Senior Immortal is secretly married just based on a ring?" Dharmaraja. "But the problem is that Senior Immortal is wearing the ring finger of his left hand." Wang Ling. Dharmaraja. "He gave each of us the same ring." It's obvious that this is a public display of affection. I think we need to organize a group and ask Senior Immortal face to face. The corner of Wang Ling's mouth twitched. This was a big misunderstanding. Chapter 4:15. Wang Ling never thought that a ring would actually cause such a big misunderstanding. When all was said and done, it was grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's fault for being too careless and actually wearing the ring on his ring finger. Wang Ling thought that after receiving the ring, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had probably been careless and hadn't noticed the impact. Fortunately, this matter didn't involve Wang Ling. If he spoke up for grenade-throwing Senior Immortal now, it would instead raise suspicions. This group of people in the chat group never lacked imagination and the spirit to watch a good show, especially Dharmaraja. These kinds of cultivators who specialized in lightning spells had always been wild and unruly in nature, and they were full of enthusiasm like the aunties of the neighborhood committee. So in the end, it was up to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal himself to smooth things over. If he didn't, his image in everyone's hearts would probably collapse. Because usually when it came to a secret marriage, it was more likely that one would become a happy father. Gossip meeting room. The gossip continued. Everyone had been discussing the ring for a long time in the chat group. Although grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's realm was currently stuck at the peak late soul formation stage, and he was only one step away from a higher realm of comprehension of heavenly Tao, the reason why he was so popular and so well known in the cultivation circle was because of his righteous persona and his fearless, death-seeking spirit. Hence, everyone in the group was particularly concerned about this matter. If this righteous persona was attacked by some people with ulterior motives because of this secret marriage, the consequences would be very big. Wang Ling understood this point. This chat group had been set up for a number of years, and this group of people had met each other in private and experienced all kinds of hardships together, so their feelings for each other were solid. Dharmaraja, everyone, no matter what the truth is, let's keep quiet for the time being until we have enough evidence. Senior Immortal might also have something he can't say. It doesn't seem good to openly question him face to face like this. It's not giving him face. Wang Ling stared at the screen and couldn't help the corner of his mouth twitching. You're already chatting with so many people, yet you're still thinking about face. How meticulous, huh? Xianxia, then Dharmaraja, what do you mean? Lightning Dharmaraja. Now, the best way for us to deal with this is to ask indirectly. On the other hand, collect as much evidence as possible. The best situation would be for the Supreme to tell us himself. Otherwise, we would have to ask him personally with evidence. Now, we have to get what we ask for. Everyone, Immortal's secret marriage isn't a big deal, but it's not a small deal either. Fortunately, only a few of us know about it. If those people outside get wind of it, Immortal will have a tragic end. At this point, Dharmaraja paused for a moment before sharing a map. It was the location of his house. Dharmaraja, judging from the direction Senior Immortal was heading in, his next target should be you, Immortal Toya. Immortal Toya sighed. I was just about to refine elixirs. But Senior Immortal's matter is more important. Don't worry, I'll be careful. Dharmaraja frowned. Also, there's one more thing we need to pay attention to. Everyone knows that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal is usually the closest to Lingxinren, and Brother Little Silver is currently staying at grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's place for the time being. In order not to alert the enemy, I excluded Lingxinren and Brother Little Silver from this chat. Wang Ling stared at the screen, his face twitching uncontrollably. Fangxing? Xianxia? Immortal Toya? Lightning Dharmaraja. What does everyone mean? Why are you all sending question marks? Fangxing couldn't help laughing as he quickly typed, Dharmaraja, look at the group members again. Lingxinren is in it. In that instant, Fuwang felt a chill run down his spine. He broke out in a cold sweat, drenching his entire back. He opened the list of group members and sure enough, Wang Ling was in it. He was so scared that he almost threw his phone. He had forgotten that Wang Ling's profile picture was a whiteboard, and hadn't checked it carefully when he had added him, thus bringing him in. Holy shit. He really was there. Withdraw. Hurry up and withdraw. If Lingxinren saw that message, it would be too embarrassing. Dharmaraja wanted to cry in his heart, but had no tears to shed. He was simply going to cry at his own stupidity. But when he wanted to take back what he had said earlier, it was already too late. System prompt. You can't take back a message from 2 minutes ago, it was over? GG. Seeing that he couldn't take it back, Dharmaraja broke out in a cold sweat as he spammed the screen with a series of emojis to top the previous message. This was too embarrassing. Through the screen, everyone could feel Dharmaraja's flustered expression. Dharmaraja sent 3 smiley emojis in a row, and with one last glimmer of hope, he asked weakly, "By the way, Senior Ling hasn't spoken all this time. At this time he shouldn't be online, right?" Xianxia sent several candles. "Dharmaraja, my condolences." Fang Xing followed with a copy. "Dharmaraja, my condolences." Immortal Toya. "Dharmaraja, is this your first day in the group? Ling Jinren might have a habit of seeing through us." Dharmaraja felt his embarrassment cancer flaring up. It hadn't been long since they had set up this chat group, and they had been chatting for less than 10 minutes. And Senior Ling usually only glanced at it once in a while. Even if he did, it was impossible for him to keep doing so. Dharmaraja wiped at his cold sweat, still feeling that he had a chance. "Impossible? How can my luck be so bad?" At this moment, a familiar ellipsis appeared. Dharmaraja looked at the profile picture, already feeling a little confused inside. The blank one. Senior Ling really is peeping. Was really awesome. Xianxia. Immortal Toya. This time, even 9 times man couldn't take it anymore. "Senior Dharmaraja, how about apologizing?" In the entire chat group, only Immortal Toya and Wang Ling knew that this 9 times man's real identity was actually Blademaster General Yi Smuff. Immortal Toya sighed in his heart. It was obvious that General Yi was secretly instructing Dharmaraja on how to deal with this senior right away after offending him. Sometimes, rather than being coy, it was better to be frank. Unfortunately, Dharmaraja clearly didn't understand this point. 1 minute later, it was a message from Lightning Dharmaraja. "Everyone, I'm really sorry for what happened just now. It was my little brother who was using my account to send random messages. Sorry for the trouble." Everyone. It wasn't long before everyone saw Wang Ling send a string of kitchen knife emojis, and there were exactly 6 of them. It was an astonishing number of points in the ellipsis. Fang Xing, "Dharmaraja, take care." Immortal Toya, "We will remember you." Xianxia sighed. "Everyone, you must remember that Dharmaraja was a respectable person when he was alive." Chapter 416. Wang Ling felt that Dharmaraja hadn't removed him from the list when he had selected everyone. This probably wasn't due to Dharmaraja's negligence, but because Wang Ling's great fortune spell was still in effect. This was a farce, and Wang Ling actually hadn't wanted to get involved in the first place. As for sending out these 6 kitchen knives, that was entirely because Wang Ling had been mischievous for a bit, but he was really happy to be mischievous. In fact, Wang Ling wasn't angry at all. In addition to the upcoming midterm exams, he now had to focus his energy on the district sports meet and the search for the Immortal's treasure house. He wasn't in the mood to pay attention to this farce at all. After staring at his phone for 10 seconds or so, a short video from Lightning Dharmaraja suddenly popped up in the group chat. It was an apology video which Dharmaraja had just recorded. In the video, Dharmaraja ran over from a distance, then suddenly jumped up and directly did a 960-degree spin in the air. Finally, he landed on both knees and kowtowed forward. The moment his forehead hit the ground, a round crater was created. Everyone in front of the screen couldn't help letting out a hiss. This action of apologizing was a little too fierce. Fang Xing, "Dharmaraja's head is iron." Xianxia, "Dharmaraja's head is iron." Immortal Toya sighed. "AI, if you had apologized to Ling Jinren earlier, there wouldn't have been so much trouble." Looking at the video, Wang Ling actually felt a little apologetic in his heart. He hadn't taken this matter to heart to begin with, but in the end, it was Dharmaraja who had been frightened by his mischievous 6 kitchen knives. Maybe he should clarify things. Thinking this, Wang Ling started to type in the group chat to explain that he wasn't angry. But for some reason, halfway through typing, the screen suddenly froze, and in the next moment Wang Ling realized that he had actually left the group chat. Wang Ling? Wang Ming had personally designed this wristwatch, and it was equipped with the most cutting-edge technology. Logically speaking, it was absolutely impossible for it to freeze. Thus, Wang Ling quickly came up with another theory. He felt that this situation was probably due to the ongoing effects of the Great Fortune spell. Wang Ling had said before that he didn't like this spell because once it was activated, there would be checks and balances. To put it simply, when it came to the same thing, some people were extremely lucky while others were extremely unlucky. This was the principle of balance between heaven and earth, and this balance was also reflected in the techniques of the 3,000 Great Daos. Everything was fated in the unseen world. Gossip room system. Ling Jinren has left the group chat. On the other side, after seeing the notification from the system, Dharmaraja broke down. "Dharmaraja, they retreated?" Xianxia said, "Dharmaraja, good luck." Immortal Toya, "Dharmaraja, this was your fault to begin with, you shouldn't have kept it from Senior Ling." Given Senior Ling's character, even if he knew, he would never say anything. For you to leave him out of the group chat is firstly rude, and secondly, it's a manifestation of your distrust of Senior Ling. Looking at the screen and Immortal Toya's analysis, Dharmaraja felt his life sink into darkness. It was over, Senior Ling was really angry. Dharmaraja, what should I do now? Fang Xing smiled. Senior Dharmaraja, there's no need to be too nervous. Given Ling Jinren's realm, he's emotionless and won't easily get angry over trifling matters. Actually, it's possible that his hand slipped and he left the group chat. The corners of Dharmaraja's mouth twitched. Brother Fang, don't comfort me. I've decided it's better for me to personally apologize. Hand slipped? Leave the group chat? Who would believe that? Dharmaraja screamed helplessly in his heart. It was either his bad luck or his hand slipping and leaving the group chat was just too metaphysical. And now, Dharmaraja was faced with a very important problem, and that was giving a gift. There was no way he would go empty-handed to apologize. Dharmaraja, everyone, do you know what Ling Jinren likes or lacks? To be honest, Dharmaraja felt that it was especially stupid to ask this question. It made him look like a retard. Given Senior Ling's realm, how could a boss-level senior like him lack anything? Did he lack money? Probably not, right? A senior at this realm would definitely have his own treasure trove, and the wealth behind it would definitely be incalculable. Did he lack magic treasures? Dharmaraja felt that the magic treasures he could give out weren't as powerful as a toothpick that someone had enlightened. Senior Ling probably wouldn't like them at all. It wasn't like he could give away his holy relic, the godly thunder inheritance, as a gift. In fact, if Wang Ling told anyone that he didn't have any money and that Father Wang was using all sorts of methods to deduct his allowance every day, no one would believe him at all. Father and Mother Wang had instilled in him from a young age a frugal education. On one hand, it made him appear more low-key, and on the other, it helped him establish correct values. As a boy, it was enough to spend where he needed to. It was enough to give him a bit of pocket money to develop a sense of financial management. He didn't need to give too much money. If he developed the habit of being generous and extravagant, that would be truly eye-catching. Thus, in the cultivation circle, Father and Mother Wang had looked down on those second-generation rich kids who relied on their family background to strut around, such as Lin Sikong. It was a hot topic every 2 or 3 days. Even the disappearance of a dog was known by everyone and made a big fuss about it. After Dharmaraja asked this question, the chat group fell silent for a long while. The truth was that Wang Ling's interests and hobbies were no longer a secret to most of the people in the chat group. But the problem was that Dharmaraja actually hadn't realized it, which was amazing. Xian Jinren, Dharmaraja, your perception is really too poor. Even if today's incident hadn't happened, you would have offended Ling Jinren in the future. Think about it carefully. What is it that Ling Jinren's expression is usually different when he sees something? Dharmaraja, what do you mean? Immortal Toya couldn't help sighing. You'll have to ask Brother Fang Xing about this. His family does this. Dharmaraja seemed to understand a little. He knew that Fang Xing's family ran a noodle shop. That was to say, Ling Jinren liked to eat noodles? Dharmaraja, thank you for the reminder. I understand. But there are a lot of different kinds of noodles. Which one should I buy? Immortal Toya, a regular flavor is fine. Fang Xing, if Senior Dharmaraja doesn't mind, you can come to my noodle shop when you're free. I'll prepare something for you. Dharmaraja, that's not very good, is it? If I take this thing from Brother Fang Xing's noodle shop to Ling Jinren's house, I'm afraid it will get soaked on the way. Xian Jinren? Immortal Toya? Fang Xing, Senior Dharmaraja, why do I feel like we're not on the same channel? What do you mean we're not on the same channel? It's just noodles. Dharmaraja understood. But then again, is this Zhejiang noodles or beef noodles? Chapter 417. Dharmaraja's heart was filled with despair. He deeply regretted his rash actions. The people in the group chat were also in deep despair about Dharmaraja's comprehension. Of all the people in the group, why was it that Dharmaraja was the only one who had triggered Ling Jinren's misfortune? Now they finally found the reason. Senior Fuang, come to my family's noodle shop when you're free next week. I'll have someone pack it up for you and you can take it directly. After typing this, Fang Xing stared at the screen and smiled. Senior Ling will definitely like it. Dharmaraja, then many thanks, Brother Fang Xing. Come to my place next time and I'll give you free electric therapy. Fang Xing. At that moment, a system notification popped up. Immortal 2 has joined the group chat. This brand new name stunned everyone in the group. The two Immortals? Who is this? The creator was not the only one who could add people to a group chat. Other people could do the same. Xianxia was the one who pulled the second immortal in. Xianxia, let me introduce Immortal 2 to everyone. I added him to the main group at the same time. As for his identity, he's actually Senior Ling's spirit beast. At this point, a lot of people already understood since many people in the group had seen Loopy Toad before. Loopy Toad also had a cell phone, but it was an old product that Father Wong had left behind. Still, it had all the functions of a smartphone, and it had helped Loopy Toad a lot with this old phone so that it could learn the basics of a language faster. Last month, when the old man had gone grocery shopping, he had helped Loopy Toad get a SIM card. Loopy Toad had also applied for an account to log into the chat group a few days ago. Watching Wong Ling chat with this gang every day, Loopy Toad actually felt quite bored. Hence, it had decided to sneak in to relieve its boredom. That silver unicorn was in the big group, so Loopy Toad felt that there was no need to hide. Wong Ling gave Xianxia a heads up about Loopy Toad joining the main group, and it was directly let in. In front of the screen, Loopy Toad typed, "Hello everyone. Hello Immortal 2. Hello Immortal 2. Everyone responded and greeted him. Dharmaraja, Immortals, are you still as green as before? As soon as Fuwang's words left his mouth, the entire place fell into a deathly silence. Loopy Toad sweated. To put it nicely, Dharmaraja's personality was straightforward, but to put it bluntly, he lacked EQ. Fortunately, it was a society ruled by law and in an era of peace. If it was in the past, he would have been beaten to death long ago. Fang Xing, Senior Dharmaraja, don't you realize how serious this is? Why do you think Second Immortal came in? Please advise me, Brother Fang Xing. Dharmaraja didn't dare say anything else and sent an emoji wiping sweat. He was just joking, but he didn't expect the atmosphere to turn cold in an instant. Fang Xing stared at the screen and smiled slightly. It's clear that Senior Ling doesn't want to talk to you right now, and has thrown a dog at you. Xianxia, Immortal Toya, everyone let's chat first. Senior Immortal just texted me that he'll be arriving on my island soon, and I'll go greet him. If there's anything new, I'll inform you immediately. After sending this message, Immortal Toya quickly closed the chat window and breathed a silent sigh of relief. He didn't know why, but he seemed to smell a trace of gunpowder just now. Actually, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hadn't arrived on the island yet, but according to Immortal Toya's calculations, he should be on his way soon. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had also been here before, but he had never actually entered the island. It was Immortal Toya who had arranged for the medicine boy to greet him on the island's outskirts. Because every time grenade-throwing Senior Immortal came, Immortal Toya just happened to be in the middle of refining elixirs. I'll invite Senior Immortal in first this time, and then we'll see how things go. In front of the pill furnace, Immortal Toya frowned. He was thinking about how he could use a tactful tone to ask who the mistress of the ring was. Chrysanthemum Island wasn't an island, but a lake island in the middle of Yunlan Lake, which was 600 li south of Songhai City. Chrysanthemum Island couldn't be considered big, but it was Immortal Toya's place of residence in Songhai City. Together with this azure Yunlan Lake and the purple bamboo forest 5 li away from it, it was Immortal Toya's private territory. This was a piece of land that Immortal Toya's clan had acquired a long time ago, and the title deed had now been passed down to Immortal Toya's generation. As they approached the purple bamboo forest, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal saw that there were already 2 Foundation establishment medicine boys, 1 male and 1 female, who looked to be about 12 or 13 years old, waiting at the entrance, and his eyes instantly lit up. Hello, Senior Immortal. Hello, Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. Hello, I haven't seen you for a long time, but your spirit roots seem to have become a lot purer. These 2 medicine boys were originally a pair of abandoned brother and sister, who had been picked up by Immortal Toya and brought back to Chrysanthemum Island more than 10 years ago to be his disciples. Later, Immortal Toya named them Jianghu and the younger Xianxia. It's Shifu who taught us well. The elder brother Jianghu smiled and bowed. When Senior Immortal visited a few times before, Shifu happened to be refining elixirs, and it really wasn't convenient for him to come out and greet you, so he sent us out. This time, Shifu happens to be free, and would like to invite Senior Immortal to the island for a chat. That's great. I've never been to Brother 2's Chrysanthemum Island. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. Senior Immortal, please come with us. The younger sister Xianxia nodded and walked into purple bamboo forest with a smile on her face. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal followed them and couldn't help sighing with emotion in his heart. This pair of twins had been taught very well, especially in recent years. Every time he came here they had changed. When he had picked them up as children, Their physiques had been so weak that it was impossible for them to cultivate, and even their spirit roots had been weak and damaged. In the end, they had successfully reached the foundation establishment stage at the age of 13. This growth rate was faster than that of those rich second-generation kids who took drugs outside. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had heard before that Immortal Toya had developed a unique prescription for body tempering, chi condensation, and then foundation establishment. Not only could it repair damaged spirit roots, it could even speed up cultivation at this stage. Most importantly, this prescription's biggest characteristic was that it didn't suffer any losses. This meant that even if it was refined to speed up cultivation, it wouldn't affect one's foundation in the slightest. Nowadays, there were too many rich second-generation kids in the cultivation circle who were too lazy to cultivate and relied on drugs to climb up to the foundation establishment stage. The biggest problem with this group of people was their foundation. They had a realm, but it was just an empty frame. They were fat. But as far as grenade-throwing Senior Immortal knew, this unique Immortal Toya family formula hadn't been made public yet. He had only heard Immortal Toya mention it when they had been drinking tea previously. Now, seeing the changes in these siblings, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal felt that the development of the prescription was nearing completion. When the time came, if they announced that they had applied for a patent, money aside, it would be a good thing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was also happy to see the two medicine boys leading the way as they talked and laughed. He had watched xianxia and xianxia grow up. "You siblings seem to have a good relationship," grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said with a smile. Xianxia turned his head slightly and replied with a smile, "Actually, we did quarrel before and we quarreled very fiercely. But Shifu always taught us that siblings should love each other." xianxia continued her brother's words. "Also, our spirit roots actually haven't fully recovered yet. Shifu said that we have to be happy during this period, so we've been communicating more in recent years." "How do you communicate?" xianxia and xianxia said in unison. "For example, we take a bath together at night." Chapter 418. Take a bath together. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath and did his best to keep calm. He had watched xianxia and xianxia grow up. These two kids basically had no contact with the outside world, and all their education had come from Immortal Toya. Apart from recuperating and cultivating, they studied hard. Their hearts were pure, and it was unlikely that they would do anything dirty. But then again, did brother to forget to popularize this aspect of knowledge? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal rubbed his chin as he pondered. There was a difference between men and women. No matter how close siblings were, there was still a window between them. At that moment he suddenly thought of his little sister, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. But in contrast to the well-behaved xianxia, his little sister was quite irascible and a sadist. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal deeply thought that if there were more girls like his little sister nowadays, there wouldn't be enough beds in the German orthopedics department. As his imagination ran wild, xianxia and xianxia led the young man in white through the winding black bamboo forest. Not far ahead, a young man who looked like a star stood calmly on the shore of the lake with a large gourd on his back. It was obvious that he had been waiting for a long time. Shifu. Senior Immortal, I've brought you here." xianxia and xianxia stepped forward. Well done." Immortal Toya rubbed the siblings' heads. "I cultivated a kind of peelless spirit orange in the black bamboo forest earlier. When this kind of orange ripens, its skin will automatically fall off, and the peel is in fact an important medicinal ingredient. The peel of the orange is actually an important medicinal ingredient. Today your second mission is to go there and sweep the orange peels off the ground and collect them. After you finish, come to the Cultivation Heart Pavilion on the island and wait for me." "Yes, Shifu," they said in unison. As usual, follow the paper crane. If you run into any danger you can't handle, tear it to shreds and Shifu will immediately show up. Then, Immortal Toya stretched out his hand, and a paper crane appeared in his palm to guide the way. The two fellow brother and sister understood, bowed again and left with the paper crane. Although Immortal Toya had picked up xianxia and xianxia, he had always regarded them as his own. Although he didn't have any children of his own, he already felt like a father. He had deliberately sent xianxia and xianxia to pick up grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to test him. Immortal Toya guessed that if Senior Immortal had really married in secret and was already a father, he would definitely have very complicated feelings when he saw xianxia and xianxia again. And just as Immortal Toya had expected, after luring xianxia and xianxia away, he saw the young man in white sink into thought with his chin in his hand. He was frowning slightly, and there was an indescribable complexity in his expression. It seemed that the true monarch's problem was really big. Immortal Toya blushed with shame in his heart. Actually, he didn't think that Senior Immortal was the kind of person who would cause trouble outside, but given the various signs at the moment, he couldn't help but be suspicious. Obviously, the senior had been under a lot of pressure these past few days. Immortal Toya couldn't help sighing with emotion in his heart. He rarely saw grenade-throwing Senior Immortal show such a sentimental expression. However, he did not have any direct evidence at the moment, so he had to follow Fu Wang's instructions and ask him about it step by step. Perfected Immortal? With the same smile on his face, Immortal Toya's call finally roused the young man in white from his meditation. I'm sorry, Brother Two, when I saw Jianghu and Yinshu just now, I thought of something and got distracted. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal rubbed his head and grinned. Immortal Toya, it's fine, Perfected Immortal, I understand. The pressure of being a father was definitely huge. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal? Immortal Toya pointed to the immortal boat on the shore. Perfected Immortal, please let's talk on the boat. All right. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal followed Immortal Toya. Noticing that the immortal boat was brand new, he couldn't help asking as he boarded it, "By the way, Brother Two, did you buy this immortal boat recently?" "That's right. It was very cheap when I bought it." Immortal Toya nodded. At that moment, his expression suddenly changed and he said in a very low voice, "Because the owner of the immortal boat shop has a woman outside and she gave birth to a child. Now that the divorce is over, he's in a hurry to sell the money so that he can divide the assets." Then Brother Two's luck is really good? It was very clear that the young man in white didn't understand what Immortal Toya was hinting at. So, wasn't his question obvious enough? Immortal Toya scratched his head and thought for a bit, then decided to change his approach. This immortal boat was fully automatic, and the route had already been set up. After boarding the boat, the owner could drive it with a spell. It took about 15 minutes to travel from the shore of Yunlan Lake to Chrysanthemum Island in the middle of the lake. Halfway there, Immortal Toya suddenly said, "Perfected Immortal, do you know the story of this Yunlan Lake?" "What story?" Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's curiosity was piqued. "Before my ancestor officially took over this territory, the Cloud Mist Lake was originally the territory of the Nalan clan. At that time, the commander who was in charge of the Nalan clan was also an extraordinary person, and he was very famous in the area. My ancestors took a fancy to Yunlan Lake's feng shui, and wanted to build an island as a base for refining elixirs. At that time they discussed this with the Nalan clan many times, but to no avail. Until something happened." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal? "The commander of the Nalan clan was cuckolded." Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. "His wife had another man, and not only that, she was also pregnant," Immortal Toya said. At that time the commander of the Nalan clan had actually been married to his wife for decades, but they didn't have any children. This was a huge blow to Commander Nalan. What happened after that? His wife was forced to get married because she was pregnant, and Commander Nalan divorced her, feeling great shame and heartache. Not long after that, he compromised with my ancestors and sold off Yunlan Lake and the surrounding land at a cheap price," Immortal Toya said with a look of reminiscence in his eyes. At this point in the story, Immortal Toya suddenly turned to Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and asked, "Senior Immortal, have you heard of Nalan Monastery?" I think I've heard of it. It's said that the founder of this monastery was Commander Nalan. Back then, after he divorced his wife, he was deeply grieved, and was repeatedly rescued by an expert. After trying to commit suicide several times to no avail, he finally listened to the expert's advice, saw through the world of mortals, and opened a monastery in a remote mountain village far from his hometown. I never thought there would be such a story, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sked. But come to think of it, who was that expert who rescued him so many times? That expert is the creator of the Sunflower Treasure book, Zen Master Sunflower. Speaking up to this point, Immortal Toya paused. After Commander Nalan fled to Buddhism, he also cultivated this method, and later gave himself a Taoist name. Nalan Hulan. Chapter 419. Listening to Immortal Toya's story, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was lost in deep thought. On the immortal boat, Immortal Toya quietly cast a sidelong glance at Senior Immortal next to him, a few beads of cold sweat silently running down his forehead. 90% of the story just now was true, and the remaining 10% was Immortal Toya exaggerating and imagining the events themselves. He used this method to tell the story of a sad man who had been cuckolded, who had divorced his wife out of resentment, and who had allowed her to marry someone else. After going through all kinds of tribulations, he had seen through life and death and had seen through the world of mortals. Actually, Immortal Toya had always thought that while this story sounded very tragic, it didn't have a bad ending. At the very least, Commander Naylan had obtained a good release after this incident. If he was still alive now, his cultivation would definitely be unfathomable. But in the 100 years since he had inherited the ancestral land, Immortal Toya hadn't heard any more news about Zen Master Naylan. Perhaps he had already passed away. Senior Immortal, after listening to this story, do you have any thoughts? Immortal Toya turned his head slightly and asked. He felt that he had already given a clear enough hint this time. From his first Immortal boat story to his second story about Commander Naylan, there were undoubtedly two key words that were mentioned the most. First, children, and second, marriage with a child. Of course, the most important key word was still marriage. This was already no longer a hint, but a blatant and explicit statement. Furthermore, it wasn't a real hammer, but a Muay Thai combination whirlwind hammer. After a moment of deep thought on the Immortal boat, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal raised his head to look at Immortal Toya. Brother Two, I've just finished listening to your two stories, Immortal Toya. Senior Immortal, do you have anything to say? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. From this ancestral land to this Immortal boat, it seems that everything you've obtained, Brother Two, has been built on the misfortunes of other people's families? Immortal Toya. He was actually speechless. That's inauspicious. Do you want me to find a fortune teller I know to do a divination for you? My divination isn't accurate. The young man in white had a very serious look in his eyes as he looked at Immortal Toya. By the way, Brother Two, why do I feel like there's something wrong with the way you're looking at me today? It's nothing. You think too much, true monarch. We'll arrive at the island in front of us. I've asked the old auntie on the island to cook some dishes. Let's sit down and talk. Immortal Toya sighed in his heart. Now that plan number 2 had failed, he could only come up with another plan. And the third and final stratagem. If he didn't succeed, he would die trying. Brother Two, you specially cooked a dish? I'm just here to give you a gift, no need to be so polite, said grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. He had never been to Chrysanthemum Island before. Originally, he just wanted to take a stroll around the island before leaving. There were still 6 rings left on his hand. He still had to give them to Tsilian Jinren 9 times man and the others later. It won't take too long. I've already prepared an Immortal car. We'll eat in it and show Senior Immortal around in passing, Immortal Toya said with a smile. Alright then. It's rare for you to come. Brother Two, you're too polite. It was hard for grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to refuse such hospitality, so he could only agree. The two of them landed on the island one after another. As far as the eye could see, Chrysanthemum Island was filled with meticulously arranged chrysanthemum gardens, which were divided according to color and species. From a distance, it gave off a poetic feeling. On a stone tablet at the entrance of the island was a poem written in gold. Picking chrysanthemums under the eastern fence, leisurely gazing upon the southern mountain, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal took a deep breath, and felt comfortable all over. The spirit chi on Chrysanthemum Island was dozens of times denser than in the city, not only because the spirit chrysanthemums here had a natural ability to absorb spirit chi, but also because of the island's unique feng shui. In fact, it was obvious that the Naylan clan had been a famous family back then. There had to be a reason why the Naylan clan had set their sights on Chrysanthemum Island and set up their entire clan here. If I wasn't in such a hurry today, I would definitely stay on the island. Brother Two, it's so comfortable here. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help praising him. Immortal Toya laughed. Senior Immortal, you flatter me. There's plenty of time in the future, there's always a chance. If you want to suck chrysanthemums in the future, just let me know in advance and I'll arrange everything. Suck chrysanthemums? One whiff of these spirit chrysanthemums of mine can prolong your life. There are people who suck cats and dogs out here, so sucking chrysanthemums at my place is actually very good. The two of them walked through the chrysanthemum maze on the island in silence. It was only then that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal realized that every chrysanthemum garden on the island was part of the maze. There was a flight restriction here, and it would be very difficult for anyone below the soul formation stage to get out once they got caught in the maze. This was a maze set up by our ancestors to protect the elixirs refined in the core alchemy room, Immortal Toya said. My Toya clan used to be a large clan that produced elixirs in bulk. Every year at the end of the year we were too busy, so we would recruit some peripheral alchemists and have them live in the guest rooms on the outskirts of the island. But these outsiders always had dirty hands and feet on the island. After that, the maze was set up. But actually it's useless now. Now that the legal system is comprehensive and surveillance is everywhere, anyone with a brain won't break in at will. Immortal Toya shrugged and smiled slightly. Why didn't you get rid of the maze? Our ancestors set it up and we've already applied for a patent. Now we call it an intangible cultural heritage. Previously, several people from Nanhan Nation came to me to learn how to set up a maze. I was afraid that they would say they were the ones who developed it, so I registered it ahead of time. I was thinking about opening up Chrysanthemum Island's tourism industry when I can't refine elixirs anymore. Isn't escape room now popular? This chrysanthemum maze is the selling point. Brother, to you're as business-minded as ever. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal clicked his tongue. As they walked, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal finally saw an immortal car parked in front of them. At that moment, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal couldn't help asking, "By the way, what did brother to cook?" Immortal Toya secretly patted his head. He had actually almost been led astray by Senior Immortal just now. He had forgotten what he was supposed to do. But now he knew that his chance had come. It's just some home-cooked dishes, it's nothing. Immortal Toya stared at the young man in white next to him, his cold gaze giving Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal a chill down his back. Mandarin duck hot pot, wife cake, husband and wife lung slice. At that moment, realization finally dawned on Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Brother to, I thought you were a little strange today. Are you hinting at something today? Senior Immortal, you finally figured it out. Immortal Toya was subconsciously delighted. But before he could rejoice, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's next words directly made him collapse. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal sighed meaningfully and patted Immortal Toya on the shoulder. I know it hasn't been easy for you to raise Jianghu and Xianxia all these years. It's indeed time for you to find a stepmother for these two children. Immortal Toya. No, it's not like that, Senior Immortal. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Don't be shy, I know a girl called Shinla who's pretty good. How about you add her on WeChat? Chapter 420. On a spirit mountain on the outskirts of Jinghua City, there was an elegant little pavilion that no one knew about. The area around the spirit mountain was covered in a powerful barrier, and anyone below true immortal level wouldn't be able to spy on this place. Even the most advanced scientific equipment couldn't detect any trace of this elegant little pavilion. Because this was where General E, one of the 10 founding generals, usually stayed. But while it was official business, General E actually didn't need to worry about most things. His current state was the same as Marshal Zhang's in the family apartment. Both of them were among the 10 generals and powerful ones at that. In terms of martial prowess, General E and Marshal Jiang were already ranked first and second among the 10 generals. Furthermore, both of them thought they were number one. There were almost no missions for them to carry out on a daily basis, unless there was an SSS level wanted criminal that they had no choice but to capture, such as the old devil from before, then they would specially issue a mission for their help. 20 minutes ago, there was a tea table by the window in elegant little pavilion. The windows were very low, and through them, it felt like sitting at the top of the sky and looking down on all the other small mountains. General E held a cup of tea and cracked melon seeds. This bunch of people is really interesting. General E played with his phone. When Dharmaraja had made the group chat earlier, he had added his alternate account 9 times man into it. As for the origin of this chat group, it was a long story. I haven't asked General E yet, how did you get to know this bunch of juniors? Asked an old man with white hair and a beard sitting opposite General E. This old man's surname was Tang and his first name was Chen. He was General Yi's trusted aide, and also elegant little pavilion's butler and gardener. Once General E received a mission from the top, he would be gone for more than half a month or even several months. Someone had to personally take care of the flower fields near elegant little pavilion. When people got older, they especially liked to take care of flowers and plants, which General E had previously summed up as the hobby of the elderly. However, after joining Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's chat group, General E had developed a second hobby, which was pretending to be cute and chatting with the group. I met them on a mission before. It wasn't convenient for me to expose my identity, so I pretended to be a junior with the Taoist named 9 times in one night, who is actually my adopted son. General E stared at the screen without turning and couldn't help laughing. But this kid has never been interested in cultivation, and is just a good-for-nothing golden core cultivator. After that mission, I became acquainted with Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, and after several requests I was able to join the group. When I don't have time to meet him, I entrust this foster son of mine called 9 times man to go on my behalf. General E actually has an adopted son. This is the first I've heard of this. General E actually has an adopted son. This is the first time I've heard of this. Tang E of E General E, I of Immortal E, of the core cultivators are of Man E, the immortal sect, of E of is of the E of sect. Old Tang broke out in a sweat. But General E, your adopted son 9 times man is only at the golden core stage. Are you sure you won't be exposed? General E shook his head. In terms of appearance, of course not. Back then, this old man specially used a face-changing pill based on 9 times man's face. Anyone below true immortal level won't be able to see through it even with the heavenly eye. In terms of aura, my adopted son has the golden talisman I gave him. As for temperament, there's even less to worry about. My adopted son 9 times man isn't interested in cultivation, but he's a qualified actor. Old Tang continued to wipe at his sweat. Actor? That's right. Although he's a minor character in the show business, he's passionate about his career. Furthermore, he refuses to help me arrange everything for him. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes for me to make a phone call and promote him? General E said earlier that Junior in the group said he wanted to give me a gift. It's not convenient for me to leave the mountain now, so I'm going to ask 9 times man to help me deal with it. Old Tang, the people in this group are all righteous people, which I admire very much. Moreover, everyone's hearts are connected and we share weal and woe. In this day and age there aren't many juniors like this anymore. Usually, it's quite interesting to listen to these juniors talk about the cultivation circle's gossip in the group. Old Tang nodded. That's right. Most of the juniors nowadays are too impetuous. The current era couldn't compare to the era when people cultivated one step at a time. Cultivators below the golden core stage could use all kinds of elixirs to speed up their cultivation, which gave rise to a natural sense of superiority for the sons of rich families. This sense of superiority was bound to have a very serious impact on their minds. Before he had been transferred here to work as a gardener for General E, Old Tang had also been engaged in research on education, and had been an opponent of taking accelerated drugs to advance realms. But that was already a long time ago. Now, as long as one had the aptitude and resources, it would only take a short 20 years to reach the golden core stage. This would have been unthinkable 1,000 years ago. Old Tang felt that if there really was such a thing as knowledge from the afterlife, that group of golden core cultivators who had painstakingly cultivated for hundreds of years, but in the end had no hope of breaking through to the nascent soul stage and died of old age, would most likely be so angry that they would throw open their coffins and jump out. Even Newton couldn't keep them down. So when he heard what General E said, Old Tang couldn't help nodding. It would be great if there were more juniors like this in our modern cultivation circle. Old Tang is right. Although the people in this group are all juniors, they aren't ordinary people. I've heard of almost every one of them. But, saying this, General Yi's eyes suddenly narrowed slightly. There's actually another person in this group who I'm very interested in. So far, I haven't been able to verify this person's true identity. Old Tang chuckled. Someone who can interest General E? It looks like this person isn't simple. General E nodded. Everyone in the group calls this person Ling Jinren, but his real realm isn't at the perfected person realm. This is just a customary title. Everyone in the group respects this Ling Jinren very much, and is afraid of offending him. This old man once sent people to make indirect inquiries and investigate this person's identity from various angles. Old Tang was curious. And the result? General E sighed. It's all mosaic. Old Tang,